Good day, everybody, welcome to Mind Prosperity. Today I'm very excited about the topic that we are going to have, and the reason I'm so excited about the topic we are going to have is because I believe it's going to help people live a better life. Not just live a better life, but getting to a place where they at the end of their life can say, I have lived a good life, I've lived a great life, and not just in the sense of like, I've never made mistakes or I don't have any regrets, because I do believe all of us will have it, but just to look back and say, generally, I believe I had a good life. And today I am so excited and so privileged to speak to Hanneke Lubbe. Welcome. It's so great to have you with us today.
Albert, thank you. It's nice to hear that you're excited about our conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I actually told my camera crew yesterday that I think this is going to be one of the most interesting conversations we're going to ever have. So I think the audience is now wondering, but what are you guys going to speak about? Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you're so passionate about it.
I would love to. And in a way also just to say and to reflect on what you said is that we are excited about talking about this topic, which is where I come from, is end-of-life care, and is about palliative care. And in our conversation, I'll explain a little bit about what exactly what do I mean when I talk about palliative care and end-of-life care. And what we see recently is that people do get curious. They want to know more. They do get, in a way, excited about talking about these topics, because it's about life. It's about how do we live life. And those questions and those things that you said now in the introduction is, how can we then adjust our lives? So what can we learn from working with people at the end of their lives? And how can we take what they tell us to in a way improve our lives where we are now? So this is where I work from. I'm going to share a few things from this environment, which is end-of-life care. I work in a hospice environment. I manage the hospice here in Bloemfontein, and it means that we care for people, we support people, patients with life-threatening illnesses, mostly cancer, but also organ failure or neurological disease like motor neuron disease. So that's the context of what we work with, patients we work with. But typically, end-of-life care, illness does not happen in isolation. So we work with those family members, the loved ones around, that's really supporting that patient that's now nearing end of life. So we work with the patient, we work with their loved ones, and we listen to them. We need to understand, and we need to see what is asked of us to provide the care and the support they need. And that's hospice.
I actually, Hanneke and myself had a conversation before we started this session, and I referred to my favorite writer called Robert Greene. And Robert Greene is actually busy with a book called, he hasn't released it yet, but I've seen a lot of videos about the book. And the book is called Towards the Sublime. And he actually wrote the book because he had a stroke. And he was like near death, almost like as if he was revived from the dead. And he wrote this book Towards the Sublime, and he spoke about the sublime as that kind of like that threshold, that crossing.
Yes.
And somebody asked him once, are you afraid of death? And he said, no, because I've kind of like experienced that sublime.
Yes.
And I think that is what somebody says when they have this idea of, I lived a good life. I'm proud of the life that I've lived. And today we're going to speak also a bit about some of the regrets people have. Is that something you guys deal with?
Absolutely. We deal with all human emotions, especially when that is basically all that's left. So illness takes away so much, and what is left is that is the core kind of the definition of being human. And that's all those emotions. And now before I go, I just want to say that threshold, that kind of stepping over into a different and the next world, or what's ever happening after death, that's what we often see. And for me, it sometimes feels as if we're sitting in the front row of the theatre of life and really seeing how this mystery of life and that moment when people are really stepping over into that next life, or whatever, we don't know. But to witness that and to see what is happening, what are those things that are important, and what And we often ask them, tell us about those days before their death, is what do you see? If they can still speak and talk and reflect, as when your eyes are closed, when you're asleep, what are those things that you experience? What are the things that you see? And it's wonderful to be part of that, to be able to be a witness of what they're experiencing. But in that preparation for letting go of this precious life, those are the things that, as you say, what are those things that they share with us? And regret is sometimes often part of it. And I can share one story which will reflect actually what I want to say is the biggest regret is postponing things until later, not doing things that you think and that you need to do, that you want to do, those things that gives value and meaning to your life. Often people say, well, I'll do that over the weekend, I'll do it when I'm retired, or I'll do that when I have time. And then illness comes. And one lady actually shared the story with me. I sat with her, and there was a book right next to her bed, and it was some kind of spiritual book. And I asked her, is that what she's reading now? What is it, the things that she's doing now that gives her some meaning? And she looked at it and said, yes, but you know, the thing that I realize is I should have done this much earlier. I said, don't wait until you're ill, because she said the reality of illness is you don't always have energy. You don't always have the presence of mind to do those things, to give attention and focus on doing the things that you thought, okay, this I'll do when I'm nearing end. See, do this during or while you're still alive. And I think it's not just about growth, because we often see people reflect differently on things that they took for granted or that they thought are their core values. When they have to let go of everything, they need to reflect on, okay, what are those things that's important enough, valuable enough to hold on to? And those are the things that we reflect on. We see, we listen to them. And it depends, and it is really a very individual process. What means something for one person is not necessarily what is important for other. But there are common things that we see. And one is really, don't wait for when you have time. You don't know when that time will come. And I would like to talk a little bit more also about one of the biggest things in the value is connections of relationships. Is not spending enough time on relationships. Because those are the things, those are the bonds that keep you in life until the end. That's the things, not waiting until you think you're going to have time to do those things that are important to you, and really spending more time on valuable relationships. That's probably some of the biggest regrets or reflections that I know and that we can see and that are really being told to us.
Why do people procrastinate? Why do they not, if we speak about, let's say younger people who still has a great life in front of them, why do they not spend time with the people, connect with the people, do what they need to do? What things are blocking them? What things are on the way?
It's also probably a difficult question because there's different reasons. And one of the reasons is try to figure out what was your life like? Why didn't you do those things? And that's that kind of turning back and really look at the life that was lived. For some people it was 20 years. For I mean, sometimes it's 16 years, which is difficult if it's a young life. But often it's in 70s or 80 when they've had a whole rich life that's behind them, is to allow them to sit with them and to turn back and say, let's look at this life that you've lived. What are those things that you see? What are those things that kept you from doing the things that you now say are meaningful and are valuable? And we know the answer. It's the common answer, it's time. We think we do not have the time to do those things. So we spend time on things that we feel we need to do, is to pursue a career, to do things that we feel we have to do, to build a career, to have a job, to do those things that's been expected of us, to do things to fit into a group. All those things that we think at that stage, we need to do at this point in life, because that I feel that's valuable and important. But as life progresses, it sometimes becomes a habit of not having time, and always thinking. And I had a conversation once with a lady of 87, and when I spoke to her about her death, she was in tears and said that she didn't think it's going to happen now. And I immediately, I did share, I said, I laughed, I said, well, when did you think it's going to happen? And to me, that just illustrated that with age, we don't necessarily make more time for those things that are meaningful or important. We're just so much in a habit of pushing those things, because it takes some, often those things that are important for us as human beings take some time and consideration, and sometimes discomfort, because we are then confronted with a part of us sometimes that we don't often accept, because often we need to push that away to fit into our group or society. And that is why people postpone it. We don't want to go there where it's uncomfortable. And then illness, then we all of a sudden at a stage where we need to look at those things.
Okay, I have 3 big thoughts. Based on what you said, it's really amazing. Number 1, I remember I once did this financial course where they teach you how to budget and how to work with money. And the guy gave us this exercise to do. And he said, just keep the slips of the things that you buy that you didn't plan to buy, like little things. Like, say, for instance, you stop at a petrol garage and you buy a cool drink or a chocolate or a pie or whatever you buy, things that are not really big things. Just keep those slips and just add that amount up at the end of the day. And then you will see like a big chunk of your money actually goes to that, way bigger than what you thought. So I think the first thing that I want to comment on that, I think it's the same with time, is that, we spend so much time on things that we didn't really plan for, but if we add it up at the end of the day, we'll see that, wow, I actually wasted so much time on things that were not important. Then the second thing, there was a guy who, Tommy Barnett, he's also, I think this guy did public speaking until he was like 88. I think he's still alive today. He's probably in his 90s. But he wrote this book, The Power of a Half Hour. The Power of a Half Hour. Yes. And in this book, he said, some of the things that we really want to do, whether it's speaking another language or learn to play a musical instrument or whatever it is, you can literally learn to do that thing if you just take a half hour a day and work on it, right? And then the third idea that I want to share, and then you can comment on it, is you just mentioned something about, the people in your life and how you want to keep them happy and how do you want to please them. And for me, it takes me to a thought like, a lot of times I'm not myself. A lot of times I don't do what's important to me because I just want to make sure everybody around me is pleased. Yes. And by this, I'm not saying people around you shouldn't be pleased. By this, I'm not saying that people around you should treat people around you badly just to fulfill your own needs. But do you believe one of the regrets as well is, yes, I focused so much on what people thought about me rather than just being myself and doing what I think I should do?
Yeah, well, first I should maybe do that budgeting course with you, the financial course. That's something, yes. But
I'll give you the guy's number. I lost the book.
But something about regrets, and there's a lot of things that also that I can reflect on what you said is what we often see is that time we spend on things that we think is necessary. I mean, often when we often look as a team to patients and what's happening, and one of the goals as palliative care workers is to relieve suffering, wherever suffering is happening, in whichever domain. So it's not just the physical, it's also emotional, the spiritual, the social suffering that people experience when they have to let go of life. And this kind of existential suffering that we often see with people is often when it happens with especially very successful people in life, when they spend so much time on creating an identity that's very tightly focused on a role they play, being successful in their lives. And that is one of the first things that they have to let go of when they become ill. And that journey of course, the journey of illness, and that's the illnesses and the kind of deaths that we work with. It's a journey. It's not a sudden death. So on that journey, there's so many multiple losses, things that they have to let go, and experiencing of loss. And for people that identity is really tightened into and fastened onto something that they've created, it's hard to let go of that. So who's left? What is left when they see themselves only as a successful boss, or as somebody that plays a certain role in the environment or the community? When that's gone, there's nothing. And that is one of the hardest things that we need to address. Often people ask and say, can we not just make this happen faster? I cannot face living like this. So that is the question then, is how can you, prevent existential suffering, knowing that you will have to let go of this life that you're building. So if you have to let go of things, what's going to be left that's going to give you still a sense of meaning when you have to let go of those things that you think are important? And those are those connections. We call it also the healing connections, those things that will keep you in life, that hold you in life, hold you into a sense of who you are, despite of all these losses. And one of the biggest things is your kind of connection, a true connection to yourself. And that brings me back to that question of playing a role of trying to please people. What we often see is, and the gift of illness, the gift of facing your mortality is really arriving at a spot where you say, well, if I'm losing this role, if I'm losing this kind of desire or need to please, who am I then, now that I can only be myself? And for me, that is sometimes a miracle to witness, when they arrive in that we call it kind of a circle of belonging, of arriving within themselves, of accepting, I can just be myself. This is who I'm supposed to be, not somebody that needs to please the community, the society, the church. I can be myself. This is the gift I have. And from this true connection to themselves, they form connections then to the people around them, coming from that honest, pure place, which illness cannot take away. And connections to those meaningful group of people around them. And from there to the environment, to nature. And for me, beautiful sometimes to see that, okay, what brings meaning is to have, and those conversations with people, all they want to do is to have those people that are meaningful to them, to be in a place, often where they're in a window where they can still see nature, they can still watch what's happening outside, the colors of sun or shades or the birds. And having that kind of, from there, that connection to the significant. If a relationship with God, or however they see that they just part in this bigger world that illness doesn't affect. And that is the biggest thing, that the accomplishment that we see is arriving in that center of belonging, where they can have those connections.
I don't know if you know the work of Carl Jung. He spoke about this whole idea of the shadow.
Yes.
And the shadow is this part of yourself that's actually true to you,
yes,
that you suppress or repress.
yes,
And you suppress or repress it, not necessarily because it's bad, but you believe it will be perceived as bad
yes,
by society. And one thing that I think is, like, based on what you mentioned, we are born, and then your parents decide, this is the name I'm going to give you. Your parents decide what language you're going to speak. Your parents then decide what your religion will be, what school you will go to. that school decides what they're going to teach you, that religion decides what they're going to teach you. I'm not saying those things are bad. What I am saying is, I wonder how many people get to a place in their lives where they just observe and say, okay, but all of these things has been taught to me. I'm not necessarily saying it's bad. What I am saying, a lot of it might be very good. What I am saying is, do people ever take a step back and just evaluate and say, but who am I really? Because Carl Jung said the only way you can really be yourself is if you integrate the shadow, not try to suppress or get rid of it. Yeah. And then I believe, and you can tell me what you think about this, then I believe a lot of people get to the end of their lives and then they realize, but for my whole life or for a big part of my life, I've just been conditioned to be what people wanted me to be.
That's exactly what you say, is that, and not all do, I think it's really not something that happens every time, but especially people that had to, for many different reasons, I mean, you've mentioned a few reasons, had to suppress a part of them that they perceived or felt is not acceptable or accepted in the community, or that they cannot show themselves to be, because we all have that desire, we want to belong. We want to feel that people like us, that we are okay. That, I think that is the biggest desire, is that I'm okay. And that's why where we make our choices from is that kind of sense of I want to be somewhere. And when you, and the conversations we have is we invite people, tell me about yourself. What are those things that you value about yourself? I want to understand who you are. And if it is an issue, it will come up. Yeah. If the people are struggling with that, it will, because a thing about the privilege of working with Enough Life is they don't feel that they have to please people anymore or have to play a role. They don't. There's nothing really left. They can just be the honest selves, and that is the where we work from. Is tell me you don't, and they don't know us, so they don't have to play that role of being someone in front of us. And when there are regrets, and when there are things that they say they had, or they were not worthy of it. Because that's also another thing, is that they didn't think they are worthy of having attention or experiencing love. And to see that as well. I want to share a quick story about that as well. Is a woman who was a patient here, and when we had admitted her, she was in her 50s, a beautiful woman. And it's still young, 50s young. So she was not really ready to let go of her life. And we thought she only had a day or two left, because she was really just skin and bone, very, very weak, very, very ill. And we admitted her, and with her was two sisters and a fiancé. So a very loving environment, but very concerned about her. And to our surprise, she just didn't die. She kept on. And at some point, she took me like this, say, when is she going to die? And I told her, just, I don't know. We need to learn, we need to see what is happening in this waiting period. And then we started this conversation with the people around her, the two sisters and the fiancé. And they told me about her life, that it was a very difficult childhood, abusive childhood, especially from the father. So she never thought that she's worthy of love. She was not capable of receiving love or giving, and her life choices were made from that belief that she's not worth it. Until now, when she was with us, where she, in that moment, she experienced unconditional love. And I reflected on that. Can she see that what she experiences now, and it was really visible, is the love that she thought she was not worthy of. And her soul didn't want to let go of that until and hold on to that for a while. So for her, that was really, and for all of us, is to accept the fact that we're not probably whole people, but that the soul is really searching for that's missing. And I think that is the beautiful thing about learning that, is that we all have the desire to be accepted, to be whole, to show all parts of us, and still feel that it's worthwhile. I don't know if that's answering your question. I actually
love it. I was thinking about this podcast I recently watched. I don't know if you know who Jay Shetty is. I watched a lot of his podcasts, and he was interviewing this lady called Emma Watson. She used to be a famous actress, and they spoke about how she left acting and for what reason. And one of the things that she mentioned was like this whole idea of performance, and Jay said something very interesting. He said he has a friend who's an actor, and they are very, very good friends. And he said probably for every 100 people that will ask this friend of him, he didn't say who it was, who will ask this friend of him for an autograph and a photo, there will be like one person who will come to Jay and say, I want your autograph and your photo. And then he said this actor friend said to him, Jay, you're so lucky. And he said, why? Is it because I'm more anonymous? Not so many people recognize me. And he said, no. He said, every person that asks me for my autograph and every person that asks me for a photo does it because of who I pretend to be. But people who ask you does it because of who you really are. Yes. And for me, that meant that, if you pretend, you can probably have 100 people around you. Yeah. But if you're your true self, you might only have one. But that one actually loves you for who you are. Yes. And what made me think about this story is that lady probably just needed that one person that said, and you spoke about unconditional love, that said, I can really be my honest, vulnerable self around you, and you can accept me. And that's what you did. Yeah. And that's what's so amazing. Yes. And that's what's such a great, well done. Yeah. And you spoke earlier about connection. And I also think, it's only being your true self that will allow you to connect with people. I want to share this story. It's in my book. I told you that I'm writing a book that's very focused on people pleasing and connection and stuff like that. And I always wanted to be, like, my big dream was to be in this spotlight. I want people to like me, love me, recognize me. And in the book I spoke about like how all of the research showed that this is not the most important thing. So I was sitting at Meisenberg. I was about to do my cousin's wedding. And I was sitting at Meisenberg and I said, in this, I'm kind of like reflecting that on the day that I get married, I can probably invite 500 people just from my side to my wedding. Yeah. If I would die one day, there would be thousands of people at my funeral. That's how many people I know. And I said, but the sad thing is I had to come to Meisenberg all alone, or I had to come to Cape Town all alone. And I said, I went through this realization that I have all of these people around me, but I'm actually close to nobody. And that was a big reflection for me. When we speak about connection, two people can be very different, and still connect, as long as they can accept their differences. As long as they can accept, you can be you, I can be me. We don't have to look the same, think the same, believe the same to connect, but we have to be our true selves. Yes. To connect. Yeah, yes. I don't know if you want to add on that. I just wanted to share that story.
Yeah. I think what again with connection, I think that's it doesn't really matter how many people we have in life, it's how many true really those connections we have. And we talk about end of life, and I just want to reflect about that as well. As I am not romanticizing end of life care, and part of knowing how difficult it is also to realize how valuable life is, and those connections and those things that sometimes is difficult because, as you said, sometimes there are differences, and knowing that this is now it. I need to say goodbye to my life. It gives people the opportunity to reflect on what are those things that I can still need to do to give me some sense of acceptance. We can talk a lot about acceptance. It's difficult to accept that this is it, that my life is over, even for 87-year-old. But that kind of to reach that point of surrender, I can allow what's happening because I don't have a choice. But to really at that stage have the privilege to, and for us the privilege to do it with people, to look at those things of what do I still need to do, what are those things that I still need to mend to be repaired, and it's often with complicated, difficult connections or relationships. Families are complicated. Even when you think that those are people that you're supposed to be very close to you, that's sometimes the most complicated kind of interactions, relationships. And to look at it, because often it's stubbornness. We want to feel that we are right. We know how to do things. And that's often the reason why relationships are not working out. But to see how you can mend things that need to be repaired in your life at that stage, and to feel that this is okay. The relationships, the connections I have with the people that are important are there again, that are strong. That's keeping me and holding me in a place where I feel there's still meaning. Even though my life is ending, I still feel I live and have a meaningful life. And those are the things. That is the connections we have with people that are really being reflected in those last moments of feeling this is okay.
That's very, very good. I want to ask you, and I think this is going to be more on the personal side, but I think this is important if you are willing to tell us how does what you do affect you, your viewpoint of life, and how you live your life?
It's impossible to do this work and not being affected by it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it probably affects me in many ways. And I'll make it try to be quick on this. But the reason why I'm doing this is also very personal. So I've had a big loss in my life where I've lost a child to cancer. And I had to start to make sense out of my loss. How can I bring meaning in it? And I think Viktor Frankl said that suffering is only suffering if you can't find any meaning in it. And I think that is, if we work with bereavement, is eventually try to, allow people, and I also don't talk lightly about it because it's a long process and it's different for everybody, but try to see how did your life change, or how has your viewpoint on life changed after your loss, and what did it bring into, because it's not just taking away. Very slowly, eventually, one can see that things have also entered your life, that makes your life bigger. Loss often does that. It opens you for so many things. And this was part of how I felt my loss, is bringing meaning in it, what I can give back. And what I realize is that, and also with my loss, is there's more than just endings. There's other things that happen. I wanted to know more about that. And so now I started to really look into what is necessary, what is needed in this kind of care, what is palliative care. And I studied further in palliative care, so I can help people and provide people the support, the care, the guidance, in a way to help them to also make meaning out of their losses. So for me, it's every day living out a sense of meaning. But why I do this every day, and also the people where I work with as a team, is it teaches us about life, of not taking it for granted, of seeing small things as beautiful things. Because that is what's often left in the end of life. If you ask people, what are those things that you want to have around you when your last day is there? What do we need to give you, to provide, to make sure that's there? And that's those connections, is to just have those people that are valuable, to be in a place where you hear nature, to hear birds, to see sunlight, to hear your favorite music, to hear those words, to be held in life like that. And we can have that every day. So we don't have to wait until the last day. So it teaches me every day about the value of life, of allowing emotions, because you only have often access to having the pleasure of those small things if you also have the expression or allow the feelings of loss, to express those difficult emotions as well, to have access to what is lighter and what's beautiful. So that's why I do it, that's why I learn, and what I see every day is really to appreciate life.
I think, well, sorry for your loss, first of all. I know that must have been very difficult, and something that's really great and really amazing, and I know loss is never a good thing, but the fact that the person can take it like you did and use it to do good is really amazing. So thank you for that. And I do believe, everything we said so far today, I think there have been so many good, nuggets and life lessons that people can take away. So I want to ask you, just as one final thought, is what would your encouragement, advice, life keys be for people that still has, and not that I'm saying we know how much time we have left, but people who are at a place where they can say, I probably have a life in front of me. What would your advice and final takeaways be for them?
Well, probably the first thing is don't take life for granted. And in that moment you do that, you start to appreciate the things that you have. And even those things that are difficult or a challenge, you'll see that it's a privilege to go through challenges, because when it's end of life and when it's over, you don't have those privileges. And to focus on those connections, and which starts with yourself, to really look at how can I accept myself for who I am. And from there to have true connections, and all the other things will be easier, will in a way come naturally if you have those connections, and invest time in those things that are meaningful and hold you into life, regardless of difficulties, because we know we're going to go through life and there will be losses, there will be challenges, but it's those things that hold you and balance you and keep you safe despite of all those things. Are very simple things, basically. So, and don't wait until the weekend or when you're in retirement, or even the holiday, is to have, you mentioned the word pockets, to have pockets of meaningful silences or interactions every day.
That's good. I've been busy with a book now for 8 years, so this inspired me to say, okay,
just go home and do that now.
Get it done and release it.
Yeah.
Hanneke, thank you so much. This was really amazing. Thank you for what you've shared. Thank you for what you are doing. And thank you for the influence that you have in life. We all really appreciate you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, cool. Thank you everybody for watching. I just know you guys took a lot away from the session. Till next time. See you guys soon again. Goodbye.